back to Typecast Heroes, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Jessie Miller, and today we are finishing up our series on the cognitive functions. So if you've been following all of our videos, we have done a video for each of the cognitive function and its paired inferior function. So today we are going to be wrapping that all up. And again, remember, all of this is to serve as a promotion for our research project and for the podcast that should hopefully be coming out this summer after we've interviewed 100 of each of the 16 types for MBTI. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go watch our video, Welcome to Typecast Hero. And while you're over there, go subscribe to our channel.
Yes, please.
All right, so remember the MBTI test basically gives you a 4-letter code, and that code tells you which of the cognitive functions that you rely on primarily to make decisions and take in information.
Today's video is all about extroverted feeling, which is capital F, little e, and the opposite, which is introverted thinking, capital T, little I. Please remember, as we always say, that not every extroverted type is an extroverted person. So just because you are an extroverted feeler does not mean that you want to go out and party or be around people all the time. That's not what we're talking about. We are strictly talking about how you actually take in information and make decisions. Reminder also that some of the things that we say in these videos you may relate to without actually being this type or using this function. So we may give examples that you feel that you've experienced in the past or that, again, that you relate to. But just keep in mind that you have a default setting. You have who you are at your core, and you need to remember that and just kind of look inside yourself as we're going through these to see if this is a true function that you use or if it's just an experience you've had. The types that primarily rely on extroverted feeling that we'll be going over today are ENFJ, ESFJ, INFJ, and ISFJ.
Extroverted feeling is not just emotion. So it is one of the judging functions. So it is how people make decisions. So people who use extroverted feeling are basically crowdsourcing all of the value judgments and morality and, to an extent, the emotions of the people around them. But that's not just like happiness or sadness. It is anything that you place value on that you can't necessarily logic through, and it causes emotions because you place value on it. For instance, in psychological types, Carl Jung talks about a painting that is crowdsourced or that the entire crowd believes is beautiful or valuable. So an extroverted feeler would have a tendency to go with that opinion because they are pulling it from the outside world. And they are not asking whether or not they personally like the painting. So again, these are just tendencies that tend to happen with extroverted feelers.
That's not to say that you guys don't have opinions of your own. It's not that you just take in everyone else's opinion and don't have any. You also are working with a function called Introverted Thinking, which is going to help you out in that area, which we will talk about in just a little bit.
And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have your own, like Amanda was saying, it doesn't mean that you don't have your own opinions, but it means that when you make decisions, you will go with what is typically good for the whole, not just what is good for you. So something else about extroverted feeling is that it is concerned with positive interactions with people. It is concerned with discerning the likes and dislikes of people. It also wants to validate others and their experiences. So a lot of extroverted feelers will say or will seek to try to understand the motivations behind how people work so that they can give them that validation. Something else that extroverted feeling tends to do is it wants to relate. So their goal is to relate to all of the people around them to see how people function and they work. So they want to understand, they want to work well with others, and then they take all of that into consideration, and then that does make them self-conscious about what they think, like Amanda was saying earlier, which is why introverted thinking goes with extroverted feeling. Because if you are spending all of this time trying to understand everyone else, that's going to make you go inward and decide, well, what makes sense to me? So now that we have the scientific definitions out of the way, we are going to jump into the examples. So first we're going to talk about the extroverts, which are the ENFJ and the ESFJ. So both ENFJ and ESFJ lead with extroverted feeling. And if you watched our cognitive function videos on the perceiving functions, so introverted intuition, introverted sensing, you will know that those two functions drive extroverted feeling. But today we're primarily talking about how extroverted feeling works with them. Okay, so ENFJs, they use their introverted intuition to guide their extroverted feeling. So extroverted feeling, again, it's looking at how it's concerned primarily with others, and it wants to validate and relate and understand how people work. So when they're making those connections with people, they're using their introverted intuition to take in information. So that's why in the introverted intuition video, we talk about how when an ENFJ sees someone, they don't always see them for who they are. They see them as they could be, because introverted intuition has a tendency to future pace forward. So that can be kind of frustrating sometimes, because if you put together these two functions, I want to make you better, plus I see how you could be, then they can be kind of frustrated when people don't see that potential in themselves, which I think is valid. ESFJs have a similar situation because they use their introverted sensing. So introverted sensing is also making patterns, but it's within the confines of their experience. So especially for ESFJs, as they get older, they see people making similar mistakes over and over and over again. And they are also concerned with people. They want to understand and validate just like an ENFJ would. And when they're watching someone make the same mistake constantly, that can be incredibly frustrating when all you want is somebody to break that cycle and they're not listening to you. With that in mind, if you love an ENFJ or an ESFJ, sometimes the stereotypes that come with them is that they are bossy or that they can be kind of pushy. But if you consider how they see you and the potential that they see in you and the patterns that they're tracking in you, anything they tell you is going to be very likely with the best intentions and for your own good.
They're not going to waste their time with somebody that they're not deeply trying to help. Like that's at their core what they are trying to do. That's the whole purpose.
So why language helps them and why understanding extroverted feeling is so important is if they know that they're using this to make their decisions, then they can try to be more conscientious of how they feel personally about things, right? So they can try to tap into themselves a little more and give themselves a little more, because both ENFJs and ESFJs want to do so much for others that they often don't get enough time for themselves. So this is what happens. They spend all of their time building up other people and investing in people and encouraging them to either stop making the patterns that they've already done or be who the ENFJ envisions that they could be. And then they end up getting not enough time for themselves and they end up turning into resentment. So society, this is a way that you can help ENFJs and ESFJs. Just say thank you. The end. They do so much for you, and they don't need you to acknowledge all of the things, but they need you to acknowledge at least some of them, because I bet you anything you would notice the second it's not done.
Yep. I also think to encourage them to take that time for themselves. So often they need to hear that it's okay to back off of other people and to spend that time with themselves. And just FYI, if they don't spend that time with themselves early on to really start learning who they are, then eventually they're going to be a lost person as an adult who only knows how to take care of other people and doesn't know how to look inward, which then is going to hinder them on how they can help you, because then they haven't experienced enough personally for them to really, especially those ESFJs, for them to really be able to give you the best them that they can.
So now we're going to talk about the introverts who use extroverted feeling, and they use it as their secondary function, and that is the INFJs and the ISFJs. And so the way that they use this function is completely different from the ENFJs and the ESFJs, and it's different from each other. So they look at life through a certain lens, and then they use extroverted feeling to interact with their environment. So for an ISFJ, because they are a perceiver first, everything that they do is through the lens of their introverted sensing. So go watch that video. And that means that they are running it through, checking the event to see if they've ever gone through something similar, if they've ever read about something similar, if they've ever learned about something similar to whatever it is that they are currently experiencing. So for an INFJ, that means that when they interact with an event, they are constantly running it through their abstract concepts and philosophies in their head, and to see if it matches that. And if it doesn't, they discard it. So when they are making a decision and they are interacting with the world, their perceiving function influences their extroverted feeling. So unlike the ENFJs and ESFJs who are all action, like let me understand all of the people right now, let me physically go help this person right here in front of me, let me make sure she's fed, she's taken care of, she's the best person she could possibly be. Think about all of those things and not act forward on those things. And they are likely to filter that through their lens of introverted sensing or introverted intuition. For ISFJs, language helps them because if they know that they have a similar compulsion to take care of the people around them, but again, because they're introverted, that means that when they take care of people, sometimes that can make them feel a little resentful because they don't get enough time for themselves. And that's even a bigger problem for ISFJs and INFJs than it is for ENFJs and ESFJs because they are natural introverts. So what I see happening for a lot of ISFJs is they want to create the best experiences for the people that are their people, like their family, their friends, the people that they love. So because of this, and they have their introverted sensing to help them keep a memory catalog of every event that they've ever thrown, they have a way that they know things work. And so when they're trying to do something like a family holiday or a birthday party or even something at work, and they are taking into consideration the interests of the people around them, they know the best way to do that. And sometimes it can feel like no one around them appreciates what they want or appreciate the way that they want the event to go, but they are doing this with good intentions. The ISFJs, if they know that they have extroverted feeling and they know that they have a tendency to want things done their way, then they can start to kind of own that a little better, and they can know that sometimes people are not going to take it properly. Sometimes they're not going to do all of the things that the ISFJ feels like they should to make the event the best way. So my message to society, if you have an ISFJ in your life, and like chances are you do, ISFJs are the most common type for women. If you have an ISFJ in your life, then you need to know that all of the things that they're doing, if they want you to wear all of the same color clothing, or if they want you to bring a certain size casserole dish, or if they want you to appear a certain way for a family photo, just do what they want. Just do it.
It's they have the best intentions. Same thing that we were just talking about with the ESFJ and the ENFJ, is that even though they can come off pretty assertive about that stuff, they want you to be the best you that you can be, and they're very passionate about that. And this is very similar with the ISFJ that we're talking about.
Right. And they're not doing it to be bossy. Like if I have all of the ISFJs I've ever talked to, none of them want to be bossy. They're not doing this so they can be controlling.
They're actually quite the opposite. Like they just really care, but they have this idea in their head of what's going to be the best that they can give you, and that's based on their past experiences, and that's what they're trying to recreate for you.
So let them do it. Like it is not going to kill you to wear a certain color or to bring a certain dish. It won't. And fighting them does no good. Like that's just, then nobody's happy.
Yeah.
Like why would you do that? Get over it, TI. Let the FE users tell you what to do. There's no problem. Like there's nothing hurting you if you just do what they say. And you just make the event worth it and create a good memory for the ISFJs in your life. Like it's not going to hurt you to do so. So that's my message for society regarding ISFJs. So in the Introverted Intuition video, we did not spend a whole lot of time on INFJs, and that is because I do not like talking about my own type. It's very challenging for me to talk about my own type, but I'm going to try better because that was a criticism that did occur that we did not spend enough time talking about them. So something that I say a lot is I like people in theory. And I think that that is very true to the INFJ experience. I'm very interested in the external morals and values and interests and likes and dislikes of people in theory. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing the research that I'm doing. However, when it comes to actuality, a lot of INFJs believe that that we can read minds, or that we are somehow magically empathic because of introverted intuition and
extroverted feeling.
And that is not, if you feel like you are, far be it from me to tell you that you are not able to do that. However, in reality, that's not really how this works. In fact, if you think you're magic, you probably have introverted intuition further down in your stack because you don't understand how it works. Because when you are someone who leads with it, you do know where it's coming from.
Yeah, it doesn't feel it should only really feel magical if you're not using it and you're just looking at it. But if you're using it, it doesn't feel like magic. To you, you don't even know that you're using it half the time. Most of the people that come to us that do have NI are just realizing for the first time that not everyone else thinks the way that they do.
Well, it's a crazy thing when that realization occurs. So an INFJ, when they are looking for patterns, they are looking for patterns in human behavior. So that is true, they do that. But they're doing that from a step back. So in ENFJ, when they are using introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, and they look at somebody and they see who they could be, we are doing that more with not the person right in front of us, but we are doing that with where is this religion going to be in 100 years from now? Because that applies to, this is a crowdsourced value, and we look at it and we don't see ourselves in it. That's something else that happens with INFJs a lot that I do feel like is unfair. INFJs get accused of being almost kind of heartless at times when we're looking at a theory or a problem. But it is because we look at humanity as a whole and we aren't really counting ourselves as part of it.
Essentially, you guys could see something that might actually really suck for you, but might be better for humanity, and you'll go for it. Because it doesn't matter what it does to you.
No, because that is a true sign of introverted intuition. If that is your lead function, sometimes the concept that I'm even a human is weird to me. Like, I'm just going to be straight up. A lot of times I feel like I am just a thought process attached. And I will have these moments where I've told this to Amanda so many times, I will go through a whole day or even longer, maybe like 20 hours or so without eating, without doing anything but looking through my books and thinking. And then all of a sudden I'll look at a table and I'll be like, this is a freaking table. Like, this is a real table in front of me. And it's like this weird reconnection to reality. And so when we're using our extroverted feeling functions, it's almost like an assault on our internal world, because it's like that is reality. Any external function is focused in reality. And so when you spend so much time in your own head, forced to care about the values and opinions and morals of the people around you, like somebody walks into the room and you feel that extroverted feeling compulsion to be like, oh, let me see how their day is, it almost feels like they're impeding your internal peace.
It's like one of those moments where you're like, ugh,
yes.
Why?
Like, I don't want to do this. I just want to stay inside my own head, and you are coming to me and making me care about you, and I don't want to. And so that is where INFJs get this horrible reputation, but kind of valid one, valid, of not being there when people need them. And it is because of all of the types. INTJs are like this too, but INTJs already naturally don't tend to like huge crowds of people. It's like INFJs can like people sometimes, but for the majority of the time, they'd rather be inside their own head. And if you are not relating to this, again, you probably might not be an INFJ.
It also can sometimes take time to strengthen that third function, which we talked about in a few videos. So not to say you're definitely not an INFJ if you don't relate, but maybe take a look at that third function and see if you're maybe constantly using that third function. For INFJ, that would be NI and TI. It's called a loop. Again, we've mentioned that before. We'll go into depth later on. But take a look at that as well. Oftentimes, Jessie will say that it is almost like FI will pull her back from, FE will pull her back from TI sometimes and kind of like, not wake her up, kind of wake her up a little bit.
I always picture, like, you guys know in Looney Tunes, okay, dating myself a little bit, but like the Looney Tunes show when somebody would be on.
Dating ourselves? Looney Tunes?
I mean, girl, we're almost 30.
You're almost 30.
Amanda, you're like 2 months younger than me. Whatever, man. Anyways, so it's kind of like when you would see like a cartoon character on a stage, like on a musical stage, and they're singing, and then you see like the big shepherd's hook and they like yank them back. That is exactly what it feels like when my extroverted feeling yanks me back to reality, because I want to stay in my head. So for an ISFJ, they will say something like, oh, Louise looked super tired today. I remember that she said that her baby has not been sleeping very well. I should probably ask her how she's doing. That is a good example of introverted sensing and extroverted feeling working together, because they care about people and they're running it through their lens of introverted sensing. An INFJ can have those thoughts too, but they're probably going to manifest in a very different way. So they could have something like, Louise was really grumpy today. I wonder what humanity needs to do to make her not so grumpy so that I can spend more time in my thoughts. Now, obviously, they're not consciously thinking that, but they would be thinking like, Louise was grumpy. Humanity has a sleeping problem as a whole. What do sleeping problems have to do with my internal philosophy? And that's like the line of jumping that they would do with their introverted intuition. So an INFJ could still act on it. They could still be like, hey, Louise, why are you grumpy today? But they're far less likely to remember that the reason is because the child was sleeping or their baby was having trouble.
Yeah.
I'm bad at memory.
It comes... Yeah, she is.
So bad.
So bad. But it does. It doesn't come across... It doesn't come across uncaring, but it doesn't come across as caring as a lot of stereotypes are about INFJs, simply because they're not in that moment with that person. They're not in the moment saying, you have a baby and that's your reality and that's what's happening to you right now and that's why you're like this. Those dots don't connect because that's not how introverted intuition connects dots.
Okay, so I know that I've been really harsh on INFJs. It's hard to talk about your own type objectively. So for INFJs, the reason that extroverted feeling matters is because if they understand that they've got that extroverted feeling compulsion, they cannot be so upset when people come to them with their problems, because they can know that is a part of them, that they're going to be naturally oriented to wanting to care about those issues. And so when it occurs, they can learn how to transition better outside from their internal world into the external world when confronted with a real life problem or person with real emotions right in front of them. The other reason that INFJs matter so much is because they can contribute an awful lot to religion or education or academia in general, because they care about people and they have the introverted intuition to really go the distance with it. And it doesn't even have to be on the scale of academia. I know I talk about that a lot with introverted intuitives because we are naturally oriented for that. Mm-hmm. But you could even be doing that in your own home, in your own family. You could be bringing them something else to think about, a different way to be. You have a unique lens through which you see the world. And because you naturally care about people, whether you want to or not, that means that you can interact with people that you meet and share your vision with them. Mm-hmm. And that is super valuable. So for society, for ISFJs and INFJs, for ISFJs, like we said earlier, I'm just going to recap again, just listen to them. But for INFJs, more than any other type, you have to give them their space. You have to. In INFJ, and I get it, society, I understand, because I've been on that side where it's like, I will be all about texting for like 3 days, and then she would not hear from me for like a week. And she'd be like, what's happening? You have to give INFJs their space. And they are really bad. Sometimes they can be very bad at communicating, that they need their space. However, if you love an INFJ, if you have one in your life, and you probably don't because they're not that many, but if you've got a real INFJ in your life, they're going to disappear for a while at times, and you have to let them. They have to have it, because when they are ready to interact with people, they will be all in.
It's like they just flip a switch.
Yeah, it's
on
like
and
I'm done.
off. Yeah, it's like they're either on and they want to be around people and they want to be extroverting, or it's the complete opposite and they want to be off, and you gotta let them. And once you learn that, again, why this language is so important. We talk about all the time how it's helped strengthen relationships in our life and for each other. We've been best friends for 15 years now, I think, so we figured out. And we're still learning about each other. What I'm saying, though, is that this has given us a language and an understanding of each other in a way that we've never had before. So just to kind of push this a bit further about why we are doing this and why we're so passionate about it, that is one of the main reasons why.
So remember, it is important to own both your extroverted feeling and your introverted thinking. And I know that a lot of this is directed at myself too, because extroverted feeling is not something I like doing. However, it is a part of me, and I do have to own it and accept it and love it.
And from time to time, use it.
Thank you for watching Typecast Heroes. Please subscribe to our channel so you can see some more awkward conversations.
I really believe that we're some of the most awkward people to like close videos, but it's fine.
Subscribe. We need you.
Subscribe.
I've been told we don't do a call to action enough. So this is your call to action, fans.
Action needed.
Subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe. Y'all are right here. If you're watching this right now, there's
Just
a button right underneath you. You can just hit that.
Did we do it right?
It helps us out.
Did we do it right, fans who critique
do it?
us for not doing a call to action? Also, go watch Welcome to Typecast Heroes and then schedule an interview because we got a new country today, Ukraine. Yay. So we're up to 69.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm a child.
So-
Thank you for watching, and we really appreciate it.
And thank you for finishing through this whole series with us.
Yes.
So we are going to be moving on to we have a couple videos in between to talk about some more things, but we are going to be releasing the 16 types very soon.
Mm-hmm. Not the 16 types with the data that we keep talking about with the interviews and all that stuff, but just
there'll be
types.
some sneaks in there about what the data has shown, because obviously that's what I do all day, so I'm like, I'm gonna mention
little
it.
Teasers.
Yes, but we're not going to be going over it in depth. That's got to wait until I get all of the types.
Which means we need you. If you have not interviewed with us, we promise it's super easy. It can be as short or as long as you'd like it to. That's completely up to you. And you can do it any way. You can message us, voice call, do a video call, any of the things. So we can fit in your life somehow. I promise you. We'll make it happen.
Thank you for watching Typecast Heroes.
Thank you.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTITYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.